switch into the game, which has already started. Sorry about that. So, well, we didn't know that. Anyway, it appears that Curly Dawn is on the board, and Newgate is at 4 life. So we're going to see a Nami come down. Law is going to go ahead and use that Nami for exactly what we were just. Puts the leader to 6. And then we're going to see Zoro come down. Law seeing all of the tech options for the Whitebeard matchup. And we see draws, gets Dawn, swings immediately with leader. And then we're going to play Marco down, get rid of the Nami, which provides far more threat than the Dawn, honestly, because again, Nami allows Law to play on curve and still threaten. So Law is already down to 1 life. A lot of stuff happened in the 3 minutes that we weren't watching the stream here. All right, we're gonna Nami find a Zoro. And Whitebeard has all of the cards in his hand, as Whitebeard typically does. Go ahead and counter out of it. And then we're going to see Zoro come across the table for a significant quantity. Zoro is, of course, Don 1. He gains plus 1k power. That effect is active on both turns as well. So he'll be a base 6 on the opponent's turn. But right now he's coming across the table as an 8k. And Whitebeard's going to go ahead and get out of it. We're getting to the point in the game where we don't need to be taking too much damage.
Missing players from Winterbox 67 and 68 here at the stage. 67, 68, please meet on the corner of the stage. Check in with your judge.
So Law's playing down the 2 blockers and passing. Newgate is going to go ahead and play ace, and we're going to shrink the Zoro. We're going to go ahead and go after it. We do have 2 blockers here, but those 2 blockers also represent 2 bodies on the board for Law, and it might just not be worth losing them and the Zoro. So the Zoro is going to go ahead and go down. And then we're going to go Whitebeard at leader, we're going to counter out, and we're going to block that. Interesting choice to use the beige blocker instead of the chopper blocker. Remember, Law has to bounce one color to play another. So having the green source on the board gives you access to red cards in your hand. An ability to sort of cheat out the rush Luffy, if you will. So I do think it's an interesting choice to have blocked with the beige instead of the chopper. But hey, he's in top 8, and I'm commentating. Law has a lot of work right now. We've got an ace and a Marco on the board.
68, Ryan for Winterbox 68. Please come to the stage.
We have a Marco on the board, and Law can't really clear the Marco very well. Law is not a blue deck. There's no bottom decking it. So the Marco can just revive itself. So it might just exist on the board. And we'll just go after the ace instead. Now, Newgate has, my goodness, so many cards in hand that it is unlikely that this is going to be enough to take the ace out. Alright, so we're just considering what cards to get rid of. We're going to get rid of a Sanji and a Thatch. Going to keep the ace. Makes sense. It's very difficult for Law to interact with that ace otherwise. You know, after seeing all the blue matches where they're just bottom decking threats and kind of just moving through the game, methodically. It is a little refreshing to just see an all-out slugfest. Removal, what is that? Okay, Whitebeard just considering the options. There's one life left for Law. Whitebeard can definitely close the game out this turn. Just kind of thinking about how to do it. Law has one blocker and one Dawn left up. So you think about your math, you think about the possibility of Radical Beam, Law being a 9k at least. You kind of want to swing 9k each time. One of those 9ks gets met by a blocker. Just got to think about your plays here. Plenty of time, both very fast decks, clearly. Could see another Marco come down here, use 5 Dawn just to remove a chopper from the board. Or we could just say, we'll remove the chopper anyway with one of these attacks. And with both players at 1 life, it is also important to consider your defense, the crackback. You know, when you're in top 8, you're definitely a player that considers that crackback. We've seen many games yesterday where if the player makes one mistake in a turn, they just lose the entire game. And so we're gonna see the Whitebeard player deciding this turn's probably not the turn to go for game. Let me just burn a few resources out of my opponent's hand and maybe establish my board, but definitely keep my defenses up. Because if I'm not playing the 9-drop this turn, which I might be, but if I'm not, then I am going to 0 life. So I definitely want to be able to survive a big 16k swing from that Zoro. If I can't survive that, then I lose the game with no blockers. We see Izo come down. Gonna go ahead and grab a Jozu. Has to look at 5. And we saw losing a Radical Beam there. That is your one of. Gone forever. Okay, we're gonna see 1 on the Whitebeard. Maybe a little bit more. You kind of want the chopper to be used here. All right, we're going to Izo again. There is a Marco there. We're going to take that Marco. We take those. Looks like we have 6 Dawn remaining. We could play this Marco if we really wanted to. But again, we're going to go 7. The threat of the Marco means that the opponent's going to really want to get value out of this blocker. They have to think about it, though. You have to think about your law math. I need 5 bodies on the board. Maybe I just take this. If the chopper goes down, then we have to use at least 1 more Dawn next turn to get to our 5. We're going into 10 Dawn, so it's very possible that we don't need the body on the board, but we might. We're going to go ahead and see a blocker come down. Fairly important to have this blocker here so that you don't just have 16 potentially come across the table. Granted, 16 across the table could also just lose Law the game very easily. Law is at 0 life now, knows that there's a Marco. So now Law has to ask a few questions. Can I survive this turn? Or this next turn? If not, then I need to win this turn. Now we see Zoro get 4 Dawn and swing. Now, it may not look like it, but this Zoro could have the ability to attack an
Winnabox
additional time
69,
this turn.
up to the stage, please. Winnabox 69, please report to the stage. Your sediment is ready to fire.
Because of the law from the starter deck. Now we see Red Hawk come down. And somebody scooped.
12 p.m. Chopper, round one pairings have now
So
been
not
posted.
sure
12 p.m. Chopper,
who
your
won that
round
one.
one is now live.
I saw a Red Hawk, which puts him to 10, and a Marco, which puts him to 11, which gets him out of the 10k Zoro swing. My guess is that Whitebeard won, but we will go and confirm that for sure. Again, both players very well versed at the game. They understand when it's over, and they want to make sure they have plenty of time. Okay, we have confirmed it. Whitebeard did indeed win that game. Law player recognizing I can't win this game. It's not worth going through another 5, maybe even 10 minutes of the clock. Let's just make sure we have enough time for game 3. It makes sense. And you see that a lot with the higher levels of play, recognizing when there's no point to draw a game out. Red Hawk there was very powerful too, just giving the Newgate player the ability to remove another body from the board, specifically making it even harder for Law to establish. It makes sense for Law to just go ahead and concede the match on that one. And we see the power of Red Hawk. Whitebeard, Law is not the only one teched out for the Whitebeard match. Whitebeard is teched out for the Law match, and Red Hawk is a great card for that matchup. Okay, the question, do we see Law open with Anami? Law is most likely making Whitebeard go first, because Whitebeard going second is extremely powerful. And he is going to make Whitebeard go first. Does Whitebeard have Ezo? Nope. All right. Now Law will probably be playing something this turn. We see a Curly Dodon come down. We're going to go ahead and grab Anami. Makes sense. All right, Whitebeard's going to go to 3 Don. Probably going to attack Law. And then, yep, so we got 7 come across the table. That is a damage. Whitebeard's so powerful, being able to just 1 Don, now your leader is a 7. Just very strong into the 5k leaders. We see 2 Don left up, which could be for a Red Hawk. You could just use this as an opportunity to clear people from the board, especially if the Law player decides to play cards first and then swing with leader. We could be looking to get a punish here. Or we could just be threatening the punish to make the Law player sequence in a way that maybe the Law player doesn't want to sequence. Is the threat of a Red Hawk better than Red Hawk? Law really has to think about this. Big think. We're going to see Nami come down. So if there is a Red Hawk, it's definitely a great target. Nami's going to grab a chopper. Pretty good. 1 Don, get another body on the board. Block an attack eventually. Or, yeah, fall to a Marco. One of the two.
Alrighty, 12 p.m. Chopper event. Round one pairings are up, and you guys may start now.
And then Law Gonna go ahead and play down the starter Nami, and we're gonna put a Don on the leader. Now, if we have a Red Hawk here, we could definitely clear a value target, but it looks like we don't, or at the very least, we don't want to. And then we're gonna go ahead and play another Nami, and our board is just flooded with Namis at the moment. There are 3 Namis here. Looks like we're getting our Radical Beam. All right, well, Radical Beam is still good, even if your opponent knows about it. And with the starter Nami on board, if a Marco comes down this turn, I think the Marco is probably going to go after the starter Nami. Even though you don't want Law to be able to continue to search cards, you really don't want Law to play on curve and threaten you. But instead, we're going to see the 4/6 come down. Jill. Jill has hit the board. All right. We're going to play the Bonnie, use the effect. This is the best turn to play the Bonnie. You'll very often see Law players using Bonnie as their 5th battle card, or 5th character card, excuse me, on the board. Because you really want to keep that Bonnie in rotation. She searches for all of your best cards, specifically your Law blocker. Will we see such a Law blocker? No, we're going to put the Bonnie back in hand for a red card. So no Law blocker, but we do have Nami to put a Don on Law, and you know what? We're going to put the rest of it too. And we're just guard point right out of it. Yep, they take out Radical Beam, but because Newgate is a 6k, guard point is still a 1 cost get to 9k, which is very, very powerful. We're going to see Newgate just go ahead and start eating away at that hand. Swing 6, swing 6. Go ahead, use your 2ks. You'll run out of them eventually. Law, just thinking about it, it looked like Law might be out of 2ks. Law is out of 2ks, which made that 6k swing very valuable. And we're just going to see Ace come down now. Not even going to point to 2 cards. None of the cards need to be reduced. It doesn't matter. So now we've got Ace, we've got Jill, and Law's gotta ask a couple questions. Where am I attacking this turn? Am I going face, or am I trying to clear this speed Jill or this Ace? Maybe with a few Otamas we could do that. We saw Law counter 2 cards with a hand. Doesn't necessarily mean Law is out of 2Ks. It just means that if Law has 2Ks, they're more valuable than 2 Dodons. We're going to go ahead and replace this Nami with an Otama. Exactly what I was just saying. And it's a lot easier to swing on a 5 than it is to swing on a 6. Whitebeard just kind of has to ask himself now, is it worth protecting Ace? You know, after Marine Ford, I think Whitebeard might want to protect Ace. It looks like he's thinking about letting Ace go, which it is easier to defend 6 than it is to defend 5, so it might just be worth protecting his life than it is to protect the Ace. So we're just going to let the Ace go. Law is very low on life. He might just not need the Ace. He might have another one.
Sentiment
Who
runner up
knows?
to the front, please. Sentiment runner up to the front.
We'll find out, though, for sure. Now the Law player has to really think. I'm not sure if the Law player saw that one coming. So we're going to go ahead and go to 6 on the Zoro. And then we're going to go to 7, go to 8. Swing. Clear the speed, Jill. You can't use your guard points when you're tapped out. So now we've taken the board back, which is excellent. We're going to go ahead and sack a Dodon off for the Bonnie. We're going to use the Bonnie and really hope to find blocker Law. We did not, but we did find the other one. Now, the thing about the other one is you can't put the Bonnie back in your hand to play it.
Winnerbox 70. Winnerbox 70 up to the stage, please. Winnerbox 70. Your Winnerbox is ready to fire.
Really, really needed blocker law there because you could put Zoro back in your hand for blocker law, then play down the blocker law, put the Bonnie back in hand, replay the Zoro, and pass turn. Unfortunately, it looks like we might just not have any blocker laws. Hard to say. We are going to use the leader effect, of course. We're going to put this Otama back in hand. We're going to play the law. We're going to untap the Zoro, and we're going to swing again. Certainly makes sense. Let's put Whitebeard to 0. Granted, Whitebeard goes to 0 at the end of his turn anyway, so Whitebeard's not too upset about taking that hit. Leaving the 1 Don up for the Radical Beam that both players are aware of. And just leave the Bonnie there as a pseudo blocker. And now Law is in the driver's seat of the match. Newgate is a little behind, choosing not to protect any of the cards, any of the threats that were on board, and really has to consider, what am I attacking this turn? Am I attacking this Zoro? Am I attacking this Bonnie? Am I going face? There are merits to each of them, but it's... I think that they're talking about how much Dawn is remaining. Seems to be a question of... Alright, not too sure. It just seems to be a question of how did you play these cards? The Zoro was, of course, already on the board. The Nami put 1 Don under it. There was 1 Don for the Otama. Let's see, we have 1 Don for Otama, 2 Don for Bonnie, 2 Don for Leader Effect, and then we put 2 Don under Zoro and have 1 up. So 1 for Otama, 2 for Leader Effect, 2 for Bonnie, 2 under the Zoro. That's 7 Don, and we had 8 that turn. So I mean, it appears correct to me. The 1 extra Don that is under the Zoro is simply from the Nami effect. So there, it appears to be a bit of a dispute at the moment as to how Law played all of those cards last turn, but everything seems to be kosher here. All right, we're going to see 7 come across the table. We're just going to Radical Beam out of that. Not sure what the target was, but we're going to get out of it. Now we see Ace. Ace comes down, so he did have another Ace. I'm not sure where the Ace is going right now, but I think he is going face. This is an Ace in the face. We're just going to counter out of it. The cards in hand don't matter anymore. We know he has another Law that untaps, so you can just put everything but 2 Dawn on your Zoro. You swing with your 6k Law. You then attack with Zoro with everything. Then you use your leader effect, tapping the 2. Restand the Zoro. We found the blocker law. Restand the Zoro, swing, and then you can use Nami to put the other Don and go under your leader. So if there is a lethal play, it might be in that kind of a push. But the question really is, are you able to survive the crackback? You have to really think about that. And both players, again, are considering the crackback. So we're using Nami's effect here. I'm going to put a Don on Law and swing. And by the way, I said to put all of the Don on Zoro and not the 6k Law because Zoro wouldn't be able to attack, but the 6k Law could. So the 1k ends up factoring in there, if you were curious. Okay, we see a 2k come out of the hand for that. It's pretty telling of Whitebeard's hand. And it looks like, okay, we're going to keep one for defense, and then we're just putting everything on this Law. And you know what? Looks like we are going to test Whitebeard's hand. The question right now is, do you keep the one for defense or do you just go for it? Where does this Don need to go? It looks like we have 5 on it, so that's an 11. 12 is a better number than 11. So we're going all in. And if Whitebeard can get out of it, Whitebeard can get out of it. Not much pressure on the players. Top 8 is where the good prizes come in. So we got 2 Don left. And we got 12 coming across the table twice. Well, once right now. Whitebeard will see about the twice soon. Look like a lot of guard points. That one Don on the leader might cost him the game. Not being able to defend the ace or the speed Jill the turn before also kind of tells you that the Whitebeard's hand is very heavy. So that's 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Makes sense. All right, and once again, we're all in. Oh, interesting. We're choosing to not be all in. That's fair. That's very fair. Okay. We're going to go ahead and just establish 2 blockers. Makes sense, honestly. Okay. I like it. I like it. I also like to see the double 12 swing, but I do appreciate a good defensive play. Better to not lose the game than to win the game. Sometimes you play to win the game, sometimes you play to lose the game. It's it's an interesting choice for sure. With 1 life left, Whitebeard probably cannot pressure you through your blockers. Yes, peak commentary. That's correct. You heard what I said. It is better to not lose the game than it is to win the game. Yes. I meant to play to not lose than to play to win, but you know what? I said it. I said it. It's better for the stream. You all want to see more game, don't you? Uh,
Can I have a side event runner up to the front, please? Side event runner up to the front, please.
all right. So we've got 7 coming across the table. Definitely going to see Whitebeard be a bit more defensive. Leave up some more Dawn for all the guard points in hand. It might actually be much harder for Law to win the game next turn than it was the previous turn because Whitebeard probably won't be tapped out. I don't think Whitebeard's going to give Law another opportunity like the one he just had. Law did have to consider, though, 4 2Ks. 4 2Ks separate us from a game 3. Law has a good number of reestablish. Wow, I believe that is 3 Bonnies in hand. A very good number of reestablish in the deck. We're going to block with our Law and 2k out. Makes sense. If Newgate decides to go very tall on that Law, we can just block with Chopper. So it's
Winnabox
fairly safe.
72, please report to the stage. Winnabox 72, please report to the stage, please.
All right, we see one Don go under the Newgate. Maybe put 2 more under it. Maybe go 9 at the leader, which may turn into 9 at the chopper. We're just going to go 7 at the chopper. And we can see Whitebeard's hand. It looks like he might have had the 2Ks necessary to survive the push. We could see his hand for a moment anyway. Do we have a Marco that's going to come down? We do have a Marco that's going to come down. This is our blocker Marco. The one that's limited to 1. He's a 4/5 blocker. And on KO, you can trash a Whitebeard card from your hand. If your life is 2 or less, you get to play him from your trash, but he comes
Once
back
again,
rested,
Winnabox number 72, please report to the stage.
which does matter. Okay, so Whitebeard's established a blocker, established a board. And now it's up to Law to navigate. Whitebeard has also left 4 Dawn up, which is concerning, because that is a lot of defense that's possible. And this is the downside to not pushing last turn. Now the Whitebeard sees that he could lose and decides to leave the Dawn open to not allow that to happen. Now every card in Whitebeard's hand that was an event card, it's live again. Giving Whitebeard that time to get the Dawn back. Okay, Bonnie does see another blocker Law. Also sees Luffy. But blocker Law seems to be the safer pick, certainly. I don't think Luffy is going to be able to do the damage necessary. It might just be better this turn to go 6Ks and just try to whittle your opponent's hand down. Maybe go 7Ks. Try to get 2Ks out of their hand. Maybe go 8Ks to try to get guard points out. It's tough to say. It really is. You'd like to swing 9s if you can. We're going to swing 8, so this will be met with a guard point. Almost certainly.
Jacob C. and Nicholas R., your Winnabox is ready to fire at the stage.
And we do, in fact, see a guard point come down. Alright. Looks like we're going to go 8 from the Zoro as well. The 8s across the table are good for getting those guard points out of the hand. Could even see a Marco block here. Whitebeard's hand is finally whittling down to the last 5 cards. The Lodge is trying to take his time. Run Whitebeard out of resources. Looks like we might go ahead and block this. We're going to go ahead and block this. And we're going to discard our blocker to bring him back. And this is just going to give Law the ability to go ahead and swing 5 with the leader. We already used the Nami effect earlier. And we're just going to either counter out or bring the Marco back. One of the two just happened. Whitebeard really wanting to keep Marco on the board because it is an attacker. All right, and we see Nami come down. Nami's going to go ahead and grab a guard point? Maybe. Maybe there's a Zoro in there. Oh, nope, we're going to take the guard point. And then we're going to go ahead and use the effect, put down 2 more blockers, and pass the turn. Makes sense. This is where Law starts to run away with the game, potentially, but it's still anyone's game.
Winnabox
All right,
71 at the stage, please. If you are in Winnabox 71, please report to the stage, please.
okay, Whitebeard just thinking it out, doing a little bit of Dawn math. What am I going to do this turn? What attacks am I going to make this turn? How am I going to get 2 damage through 3 blockers? Why does George keep shaking the stage as he walks by? Many questions to ask ourselves. We're going to ace. We're just going to meet that with a guard point. We see 7 come across. We're going to chopper that one. Makes sense. Now, this Marco, you're going to have to invest some Dawn in it for it to warrant a block from one of my laws. It looks like we might be doing just that. Unfortunately, though, if we attack with the Marco, we also lose our blocker, so we might just swing with the Ezo instead. It looks like we're going to swing with the Ezo instead. Not sure. I think that's a 7K. If there's a 2K in hand, we'll probably just block with the Law and counter out with the 2K. And we're going to go ahead and block with the Law. We're going to counter out with double Bonnie. And that's the end of the turn for Whitebeard. We're back to Law. All right. So we're going to go 6 at leader. There are 4 cards left in hand. We're going to go ahead and whittle those down. We're going to go 6 at leader. Okay, we're going to go 6 at leader. Okay, we're going to go 6 at leader. And we're going to scoop. Yep, that'll do it. That will do it.
Winnabox 71,
It's pretty
please
clear at
report to
that
the
point.
stage. Winnabox 71,
My
onto the
opponent's...
stage,
Oh
please.
my goodness. My opponent is not putting any Dawn on these attacks.
Can
He's
I have
just
Judge
swinging 6.
Daniel to the front, please?
He definitely has some rusher in his hand. So let's go to game 3. You know, Whitebeard may start with the life advantage in game 3 by 2 ticks, actually. He does take his own life pretty quickly. And so when it comes into time, it's very possible that when time is called, Whitebeard's on 0 life. So Whitebeard doesn't really want to move too slow here. Whitebeard might be going a little bit faster, simply to respect the clock. Law's going to go ahead and keep that hand. That probably means there's a Nami in it. And I am imagining that Law will be going first here, because Whitebeard is going to make him go first. And that is exactly what's happening, and that is a Nami, not the one I thought, though. It is unfortunate that he did not use the Nami effect to put the Dawn on his leader for no reason. The Oh, and we're going to go ahead and drop a Sanji and just pass the turn. We're going to see a Nami drop, a different Nami this time. Several Namis exist in that deck. We're going to grab the Chopper blocker. We could use this opportunity to put the Dawn on, swing 6, and then 2 Dawn for a Dawn, or we could go 2 1-drops. We go 2 1-drops. Makes sense. Law's board so unassuming in the early game to turn into so many 6Ks. Okay, we're going to 6 across the table. Law is going to happily take that. Will we see Sanji use his effect? We are going to see Speed Jill come down. And we're going to just go ahead and pass the turn. Alright, Law is going to 5 Dawn. A couple options on a 5 Dawn turn. Many of them involve Law's leader effect. Okay, we're going to see Otama come down. This is most likely just to get to 5 on board. And we're going to put the Otama back. We're going to go for the Law. We're going to put the Nami back. And then we're going to play the Nami. And then we're going to Nami effect to search some cards. And the value loop begins. Nami's going to grab our Radical Beam. You know, Law does filter through the deck so much, it's not surprising when Law has the Radical Beam. We use Nami's effect and put a little extra behind it and go 8. And then that's where we pass the turn up. Alright, looks like Speed Jill going as fast as possible to attack. You know, while Law considers how to counter out of this, I don't know that I've ever seen this character in the show. Could not have picked it out from a lineup. Alright, we're getting out of it. Looks like we used a Sanji to do it. Makes sense. Don't really want Sanji for this matchup. Whitebeard will give you all of your life. And here comes Marco clearing a chopper. There are a lot of choppers on the board. Interesting choice not to clear the starter deck Nami, who has already gained, what, 2 Dawn in value throughout the game. Going to gain a 3rd Dawn this turn in value.
Winterbox runner up to the front, please. Winterbox runner.
The chopper blocker just represents a little bit harder line to lethal. Maybe a little bit harder line to clear a blocker Law.
Winterbox 73 up to the stage, please. Winterbox 73 up to the stage. Chopper 10 a.m. Round
Okay.
4 pairings have been posted. Chopper round 4 10 a.m.
Otama coming down. Gonna go ahead and shrink the Speed Jill to a 4. And then Nami effect put the Dawn on the leader. We do see the 1 Dawn up, so we could see a guard point come down, or not. Whitebeard seems unenthusiastic about protecting the character cards on board. Okay, we're going to see 9 come across the table with this Law. That tells us a couple things. 1 is that the leader could put it back in hand. 2 is that a green Law comes down and untaps it. 3 is that we put another blocker Law. Interesting. Okay, so we've left the 6K Law rested. Ace can come down like that and shrink both of the laws, and that law is going to go down. The fact that it might go down to a Sanji does hurt, though. You are incentivized to protect it here because there's going to be a 6K that comes after it after this, and it's easier to use 1K to protect there than to have to use a 2K to protect your life. But maybe he didn't have the 1K. We're going to see 6 come across the table. We're going to counter out. 2 Otama's gone. That's pretty comforting to see for Whitebeard. Ace comes across the table as a 7. Goes ahead and clocks in 1 damage. All right. And here we are at this junction again. We've got Whitebeard on 0 life, no blockers, like 9 or 10 cards in hand, some large number of cards in hand. And the question for the Law player, do I try to go all in, or do I just try to maintain the status quo of the
10
game at the
a.m.
moment?
Chopper,
Do
you
I
may begin.
want
10 a.m. Chopper, you may begin.
to go all in and try to win, or do I want to just continue to establish value? Just keep picking away at board, keep picking away at his hand, and just get to a situation like I was in last game where there's nothing that he can do. And that's probably the right answer, and it looks like it's the answer he's going with. This Zoro is a 7K at the moment, swings on ace fairly favorably, but it might be worth putting a little bit more on it, or a lot more on it. This is a significant chunk. I'm curious where this attack is going. This might be
Registration is
face.
now open for the 2 p.m. Buddy Battle. 2 p.m. Buddy Battle registration is now open.
This very much might be going to the face. We have 3, 6, 7. 7 Dawn on Zoro. That's a 12, 13 with Zoro's effect. So guard point goes to 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So this is going to get 4 cards out of hand at least. And if we have Law in hand to untap it, we might be able to take all of it. So that is
Table 231,
14.
lost and found. If you lost something at table 235, can you
Wow.
have that on the front, please?
And then we're going to go again for 13. And that's the game. My goodness. All right, yeah. We had the guard point, but we just did not have the counter power with it. Impressive. So Law takes the matchup after losing game 1, comes back from behind. Very impressive. We saw game 2 Law methodically, slowly but surely take out the win, and then in game 3, we see Law recognize a position of power and taking advantage of it. And double 13 from the Zoro, that's meant for the Whitebeard matchup, really working. Seeing the Nami, the starter deck Nami, much like we saw yesterday, just gain constant Dawn and constantly push the Whitebeard leader, force cards out of hand, force cards from life to hand. Just very well played. Well played by both players there. We saw game 1 how Whitebeard just had the advantage, and we saw game 2 and 3 where Law was able to do what Law does, grind it out, stabilize, and take advantage of a situation and take advantage of time. Not time in the round, take advantage of your opponent giving you more time. So that was an excellent match. That was top 8. We are going to come back very shortly with top 4. We'll hope to see you guys then.